So why do you carry that flag?
Because this is my heritage. My family fought to save their farm under this flag.
Who was working that farm?
My family was.
Who was working the farm?
They were poor. Do you know how much a slave cost back then?
These people will always say it's heritage, not hate, when defending Confederate symbols like flags, statues, monuments, and other landmarks bearing the names of the treasonous, racist losers who wanted to preserve the purely evil institution of chattel slavery. Their so-called heritage is hate, whether they recognize it or not.
The blood in my teeth, the blood on my hands, is no comparison to the Southern blood that runs through my veins.
Joe Lindler was hit during the brawl. To him, racism has no part in the flag.
But I'm going to tell you one thing. I ain't sitting down. This will just make me walk tall.
While there's hope for Joe to educate himself, realize how wrong his stance is, and change his mind. There are far too many people out there who have bought into the lies and whitewashing that have taken place since the end of the Civil War. For example, take this graph compiled by the Southern Poverty Law Center of around 1,500 different instances of Confederate iconography that were established throughout the South from 1861 to 2016. Notice anything about the three biggest surges in the graph? The presence of iconography heavily increased during the Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and Civil Rights Movement eras. Or more bluntly, periods where the white power structure felt the most threatened by the black community's agonizingly slow crawl toward justice and equality. These statues, monuments, schools, military bases, public parks, and other buildings served as a deliberate mass intimidation and mass harassment campaign targeted toward anyone who disagreed with the white supremacist foundation of the Confederacy, while simultaneously reaffirming and reminding the public who was really in power, which of course brings us to this monster.
Do you think it needs to go?
I think it probably does, and I think they should put it in the museum, let it go, respect whatever it is that you have to respect because it was a point in time, and put it in a museum. But I would take it down, yes.
In the early days of his presidential campaign, Trump took a surprisingly neutral stance on removing the Confederate flag from the South Carolina State House, but that all changed once he and his campaign figured out that it was a step too far for the voter base.
They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as you, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly.
We have to ask, who else would be protesting the statue removal and park name change other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists? Even if they didn't openly identify as a member of either group, the same sentiment remains.
Look, the night before, if you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people. Neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest.
Protesting the removal of a Confederate statue is far from an innocent act, because if you're on the same side of the issue and not protesting against the white nationalists and neo-Nazis, well, then you might well be one of them.
We have a very, very important heritage and history. And whether things are good or bad, you learn from it. I agree, there were Confederate soldiers, generals, but they were done after the war in order to heal. This was a gesture of healing.
When it comes to the Confederate flag, what is your stance personally on that in our society?
My stance is very simple. It's freedom of speech. You do what you do. it's freedom of speech.
Is the Confederate flag offensive?
It depends on who you're talking about, when you're talking about. When people proudly had their Confederate flags, they're not talking about racism. They love their flag. It represents the South. They like the South. People right now like the South.
Would you be comfortable with your supporters displaying the Confederate battle flag at political events?
You know, it depends on what your definition is, but I am comfortable with freedom of speech. It's very simple.
But you understand why the flag is a painful symbol for many people because it's a reminder of slavery.
Well, people love it, and I know people that like the Confederate flag, and they're not thinking about slavery. I look at NASCAR. You go to NASCAR, you had those flags all over the place. They stopped it. I just think it's freedom of speech, whether it's Confederate flags or Black Lives Matter or anything else you want to talk about.
Regardless of Trump's personal beliefs about Confederate iconography, it's obvious to anyone paying attention that he's using this issue to play into the beliefs of his voter base and reaffirm that he has their backs. And all these years later, he's still running with the same strategy.
Should we change the name from Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg? First question. So here's what we do. We get elected. I'm doing it. And we're leading in all the polls. We should get elected. But remember this, they cheat like hell. We got too big to rig.
Trump was greeted with thunderous cheers and applause at his recent rally in Fayetteville, North Carolina, after he promised to rename Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg, named after the slave owner, Confederate General Braxton Bragg.
But I think I just learned the secret to winning absolutely and by massive margins. I'm going to promise to you, as I said at the beginning, that we're going to change the name back to Fort Bragg, because I think when that word gets out, I just see this great-looking soldier just accidentally said Fort Liberty, and he got almost booed the hell out of the place. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody from Fort Bragg. Thank you.
When we say these folks show who they really are every time they open their mouths, this is exactly what we're talking about. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Calling out elite people in comedy should be the rule of thumb.
I think Donald Trump's hair is actually another creature.
Yeah.
The hair's like going, good night, Donald. Good night, Donald. There we go.
Maybe it goes out. It goes out and makes money while he's asleep.
There is something about punching down that feels taboo, and punching up is the way to go.
Crack's not really my thing, but if it was, it would be fine if I was on that side.
Wow.
Don Jr.'s on coke.
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. I'm a very stable genius.
It is very important, the work that the Jordan Kleppers are doing, the work that the Good Liars are doing, the work that our team here at the Turks are doing, and many more.
What he does, he secretly puts the marker on the end of the putter, and then he looks like he's marking it, but really, now the mark is 3 feet closer. That's a way easier putt.
He cheats a lot. That if you cheat at golf, you cheat at life. The saying goes for Donald Trump.